Hey everyone, Chris here with another filler video. So what you're looking at right now is a game I thought may not have existed, as I've been searching for it for a very long time, having played it just once as a kid at one of my mother's friends' places, and then never again. But a few months ago, someone finally led me in the right direction, given just my vague recollection of the layout of the interface and the high degree of difficulty. It is a Windows 3.1 game titled Local Area Dungeon, or LAD for short. As you can probably tell looking at it, this is a dungeon crawl, which there weren't a lot of those for Windows 3.x, as many early dungeon crawls stuck with text-based graphics, and those were written for DOS. And this one was made by Mike Berro, and released in 1993. And just to give you an idea of how extremely obscure this game has become, it's not even on Moby Games, despite being pretty fully featured with a lot of... Wait, did I just die? In the freaking town? Okay, so I said this game had a high degree of difficulty. What I meant to say is that this game is borderline impossible. I'll elaborate on this a bit more in a little, but yeah, this game is out for blood, so consider yourself warned if you intend to give it a try yourself. The name of the game is kind of curious, as it's a play on the term local area network, as the story centers around the Dungeon of CompuServe, and your quest to acquire a special item from the dungeon stolen from your home by the daemons of the realm, in order to be allowed to return to your family. Yeah, that's all the story there is. From what I can tell in the help files, the dungeon item is randomized and could be just about anything, including something consumable. So you have to go by the hints you're given as you progress to try and identify what it is, so you know to return home with it once you find it. The mechanics are a little different from your typical dungeon crawl. And for starters, you don't get to roll a character, nor are the dungeons themselves procedurally generated, though the contents of the dungeon floors are. Furthermore, once a dungeon floor has had its contents generated, it stays that way for the remainder of your run, so you don't have to worry too much about leaving things behind. On the surface are training grounds to gain experience levels, a bank you can deposit money at to earn interest, a pawn shop where you can pawn away just about anything, even useless items, and a store where you can buy lots of fun things. Except the Vorpal Blade, because that's just way too many digits. As with a lot of dungeon crawls, there's also the concept of unidentified items and curse removals. However, weapons and armor come pre-identified, so you don't have to worry about those. Rings, you have to be a little more careful about, because until you can identify the type of ring, you won't know which ones are good or bad. Though I find it interesting, you can wear as many rings at a time as you'd like. Scrolls and potions can be dangerous if you don't identify them first, but most of them aren't actually all that bad, at least in the early game, so you can skip identifying them early on without too many troubles. Not to say that there aren't bad ones, just not ones that'll totally mess you up from a decent state, at least until later in. Anyways, now that I'm finally having a run that isn't over before it began, I can start to explain some of the... Wait, you hear a breaking sound? What is that? My knife is broken. Are you freaking kidding me? All I was doing was walking around minding my own business when suddenly my knife splits in two. What the heck was my character doing with it? Slamming it across the dungeon walls with every step? As far as I can tell, you can't repair broken items either, nor can you equip them, and not only do weapons break, but so does armor and rings. Now granted, these things only break if you have them equipped, but when they break is entirely based on time and no other factors. The worst part is that stuff breaks constantly, and combined with respawning enemies and no simple way to return to town like a recall scroll or something, it almost makes buying stuff a worthless endeavor. It's gonna break before you get much use out of it, and as you saw, a lot of the stuff in the store is ridiculously expensive. Besides, it's not just the respawning enemies which are a problem when you're trying to go to and from the town. You know what else is going to get you killed before you know it? The stairs. Seriously, when you go down the stairs, there's a random chance you'll clumsily fall down them and lose hit points in the process. Now true, you can stay put and slowly regenerate your health, but then you're not only burning time on anything you have equipped, you're also allowing more monsters to spawn, which could potentially drop all that HP back down from combat anyways, as respawns happen very fast. Plus, on top of all of that, the game's on a time limit. That time counter isn't counting how long you've taken or the time of day or something. Oh no, it's counting down to your inevitable failure. If you want to survive, you gotta keep moving and fall down an invisible trapdoor and literally lose all your hit points and get insta-killed? Oh, sure, yeah, very fair game. Trapdoors, one of the most devious traps in any dungeon crawl, made a threat as early as the first level. I'm sorry, did I say the first level? Because you can also encounter trapdoors in the town. Well, I did get far enough to fight an ass. It is dumb. Literally. It gave me amnesia and then murdered me. Looks like I'm the dumb one here. Now, the game does show some mercy with having multiple skill levels. The easy setting gives you higher starting stats, slightly better starting equipment, and equipment doesn't break as often, but otherwise plays pretty much the same. I'm not even going to show you all the hard setting, because I'm not masochistic. Though to be fair, for as hard as this dungeon crawl is, there's no permadeath, so if you die, you can just reload your last save. You may have also noticed that little dialogue box that keeps popping up. This is the unregistered version, as the registered version was originally sold for $20, so after a solid number of moves, this dialogue box shows up which does not respond to keyboard input, and you have to close it to continue playing. Yet only one of the 3 OK buttons will work, and it's random each time it pops up. The author also warns in the documentation that there's checks in place to crash the game if you hack the nag screen out and then get a fair distance towards the end. I should also point out that this is the second version of the dungeon, hence the version 1.01. The very first release had a different dungeon layout, and there's notes on how to be able to play either layout using just the 1.01 release. Which reminds me, the game has this neat feature where if you're having trouble figuring out what something in the world is, you can enable a special "what is it" cursor to click on things and get little pop-ups about them. So anytime you need to use this, just go to the help menu and... wait, those are my spells. Where'd my help menu go? Why did the spell menu overwrite my help menu? Version 1.01, my stupid donkey. How the heck has anyone end up with a bug like that in their game? Actually, the spells are something I probably could have utilized better, though one of the troubles is that in order to make good use of them, you need to fire them at range, which means knowing where an enemy is without being able to see it. Though there are scrolls you can use which can make it possible to see them. Now, some spells are more defensive though, like a protection spell which boosts your armor class, which yes, is better at higher numbers than lower numbers. And there's also a teleportation spell. Well, maybe this sends me back up to town. Nope, do not cast teleport, you will die every time. Okay, so after playing a bunch of this with the perspective of a game designer and having way more gaming experience than my younger self did, I can safely say that this game feels possible, but that the frustration and temperament required to succeed is way greater than I'm willing to invest. Again, there's no permadeath, so ultimately, random chance is your biggest adversary, and to me, that's not what makes a dungeon crawl good. But I know there are people out there who crave stuff like this, so if you want to grab a copy for yourself, I got mine from a fan page, which I'll link to in the video description, because, yeah, there are not many copies floating around for whatever reason, and it's one of those dungeon crawls which was almost forgotten to time. Not that we would have been missing much, but for as excruciatingly difficult as the game is, it does at least have some creativity behind it, and it's always a shame when stuff like this gets lost to time. Anyways, that's all for today's filler video. Episode 253 of Ancient DOS Games will be on Saturday, March 2nd, and we're finally going to be taking a look at a QTE FMV game, i.e. like the original Dragon's Lair in the arcades, only not that one. I've never actually played one of these before, I've only watched them being played, so I'm understandably curious how this is going to go, so make sure to stay tuned to see for yourselves. Thanks for watching, everyone, and extra special thanks to those of you supporting me on Patreon. Here's just a small random set of you guys.